structure for Reading. If you would just be, while I'm talking, if you can talk a little bit about savings from Reading, given the changes that were there. So what we are looking to do for Reading is to have John Hanson, who is currently at Reading, their .4, to have Cody Tancredi, who's getting his principal certification, there for a day doing kind of an administrative intern work. We will have an instructional coach there for a full day. We'll have a guidance counselor there 1 day a week. We'll have a nurse 1 day a week. So every single day of the week there is a full-time person that is not having an assigned class to cover. And so we have that, and we have 3 classrooms there, so we'll have 1 person that is still available to do different types of duties. What we decided to do there is that we also had a lot of conversation about intervention, and to have somebody that can work with students as well, and coverage for a lot of the different things that occur. So having somebody that was in a paraprofessional role as opposed to just an administrative assistant role made more sense for kids. So that was the thinking behind the structure. So there will still be, that role has morphed more into an instructional work with student role as opposed to being totally taken out. So I hope that clarifies a little bit for you.
Sure. Okay.
And Richard, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the savings that are happening at Reading Elementary School?
Yeah, sure. Part of it was the principal position being reduced down from what it was before, and also I believe the administrator position is coming out from the budget. And then there are movements of teachers from Reading over to West with the transfer of the grades. So I'm sorry, I can't give you exactly what the savings were as everything sifted its way down to the end of budget, but I can put that together to say these were the reductions, these were the changes that are in there. So at least we can quantify what they are. Okay. But some of them are moving from one building to another, aside from just positions coming out.
Okay. Maybe could just add a little bit to that, Richard. So we were able to go down another teaching position because when you brought students together, it didn't require a new teacher. We had enough bandwidth there with the model that we had. One other place that I would just mention there is that Allied Arts is another area of savings around that, because what we have now are 2 classrooms that will receive Allied Arts. We're able to put Allied Arts staff in for half a day instead of a full day, and they can work at another place in the district for the other half of the day. So that helps with that. And then the 4 through 6 Allied Arts staff, we don't have to staff in that school. So an example would be Spanish 3 times 45. That's provided to students in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So we don't have to put that type of staffing into a primary school. So those are a couple other places that savings occurred.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? I'm Anna, as everybody knows, also from Reading. I'd like to reiterate what Jerry said, maybe put a little bit more teeth behind it. Our community is extremely upset. Obviously, we've been upset for a while by the idea of not only are we taking 4 through 6 for supposed $210,000, which we've been told up until, I think, today, was the savings. Now there's no monetary amount at all being placed on the taking of 4 through 6 from our school, taking the teacher from that position as well, and now we are also losing a full-time position in the administrative assistant who checks the children in at the beginning of the day. She knows all of the children, she knows all of the parents. She does some of the nursing right now. She has called me before saying, hey, your child is sick, you need to come get him, this is what's going on, this is what we've done for him. She has told me this week that he has gone down in red for her, which prior to this year was not a thing that he did, and now he's doing spectacularly, and she brought that information back to me. She checks the kids out at the end of the day. She is the glue that holds that school together, and so the fact that now we are taking another hit in the form of our administrative assistant is exceptionally frustrating and angering of everybody in the town, because we know what she does at that school, and if she is taken, this is going to be a large pill that most of us will not be able to swallow. So I just wanted to, again, reiterate what Jerry said and, again, put a little more oomph behind it.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm Kristen Stewart. I'm a taxpayer in Reading, and this is my piece. I have 2 boys that go to Reading Elementary. Nick is in 6th grade, who read the letter to you all a few weeks ago. He has been in Reading since kindergarten before they offered pre-K. My youngest, who just started his transition last week to pre-K in Reading, since he is developmentally delayed in several areas, and then kindergarten in the fall. He has significant medical problems, and we only have a part-time nurse, which is nerve-wracking when you have a case like this. This has caused his team to make an emergency binder for him to make sure he is safe while at school. We were told that there were not going to be any rifts, and I recall someone saying, forget using that term since we aren't having any rifts. So if there are no rifts, then why are we moving 4th, 5th, and 6th grades? Sherry Hatt, administrative assistant, was told her position was reduced to 0.7, and then right after told her position was completely cut, but we were told no rifts. Sherry is 75% of the time the nurse, giving our children meds, the pleasant and reassuring voice when you call the school, the one that knows where your children are going and when. She knows every parent and every child. A situation when Nick was in 1st grade, he was supposed to ride the bus home off to his daycare. I received a terrifying phone call while at work. Nick didn't get off the bus. Of course, every parent's worst nightmare. Long story short, after scrambling, worrying, and no one at the school, I found him. He never got on the bus. He got in his uncle's car, not where he was supposed to be. Thankfully, it ended well. What is the staff, the parents, and children going to do without Sherry? She plays a huge role at RES. I feel that this is unsafe and not in the best interest of our children. Why eliminate her when the kids are already going through so much? I think your first mistake is eliminating 4th, 5th, and 6th. Secondly, eliminating Sherry Hatt. We keep asking for a detailed report about savings and still haven't seen it. And I'd like to thank Adam for always standing up for our school and our kids.
Thank you. Anyone else? Committee reports.
Superintendent, Chairperson.
Policy?
Well, policy met twice since the last meeting. We have, I believe, 3 things in front of us later on.
Yep.
So, and we're working on a grading policy at this time, but we have nothing to report on it.
Okay.
Well, we do have 3 policies coming up in front of us that's on the schedule here.
Yep, first reading.
So, first reading, and then I think there's a last reading on one.
Okay.
So
Great.
we're good.
Communications?
We met just this evening, and we have a work plan to explore use of thought exchange to be able to reach out and engage all 7 of our communities of weighing, what information is important, what topics do they need more details on. So we are working on the mode to communicate that and kind of how we approach that, and set the timeline for probably the mid-March meeting to understand where that's going.
Just point of clarification for meeting minutes, it's actually, I think it's for community engagement and not communication. Is that right?
Yeah, engagement, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, Adam. Who else do we got? Bryce.
Yeah, so
Configuration.
The configuration committee, yeah, which we've talked quite a bit about. Well, we met for the first time. Something we discussed was kind of one of our goals should be to increase enrollment. So I know Bob would like to change the name to Enrollment Growth Committee. But we met, the 13 of us, I think, were present just last week, and we were able to use thought exchange and kind of pass around ideas. Ahead of the meeting, people got details from the Profile of Graduates, Strategic Planning Group, and all these documents in 21st Century report that all kind of came together. And we talked about kind of the charge and what we should be thinking about when we are talking about these different configurations. So I'm not going to go over the list because we're going to kind of pare it down, but just to give an idea, I mean, we spoke from everything from what makes sense for facilities, what's developmentally appropriate for the children, what best would provide students like that strong sense of belonging, optimizing the unique assets of each location. So a pretty broad range of things. And we're going to survey the group again to try to pare that down to kind of decide on priorities, so we really focus. So that'll be next meeting, the beginning of March 7th, I believe, that will really dive into that a little bit more deeply and start hopefully coming together with a plan a little bit as far as what makes sense for each campus ahead of the April meeting, which will have the architect's report kind of presented to the whole group. So.
Thank you. Finance,
We'll meet one more time, Madam. Yes, yes, we will. And so anyway, we'll have to make some adjustments once we have some new members.
Negotiations, I'm going to be going over some details, probably an executive session because it involves personnel. And then we'll come out and ratify the contract. As a chair report, I've not been well for the past couple of weeks, so Jennifer has really taken it over for me for a couple of weeks while I get my feet back on the ground. But Mary Beth has just been keeping me abreast of some policy things that came to a head, personnel issues, and so on and so forth. But I don't have anything else to report. Do you have anything to report any burning issues? Okay. Mary Beth?
Yeah. And one of the things I'll offer both to the audience and the board and any community members, as many of you know, there's some interesting weather things happening right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm monitoring a number of different things and trying to make some decisions about tomorrow. So I'm not unengaged, but I'm feeling that I've got to pay attention to that as well. So I apologize if it feels like I'm distracted every once in a while. You had the superintendent's report. One of the things that I wanted to highlight, both for the board and for the community in the consent agenda, is the 2019-2020 calendar. And excited that this will be the first time where all of our towns will actually have the same work year, which is really quite a positive piece. A couple things that are just of note in this calendar. One is that for next year, we are planning to have 2 afternoon evenings dedicated to parent-teacher conferences, and those evenings will be the same across the district. And so you'll see that in the calendar. They're actually on the afternoon and evening of November 7th and November 14th, and all schools across the district will have parent-teacher conferences at that time. The other thing just to be mindful of is that this year, because of the way that the holiday falls, our holiday break is fairly extensive. It will go from December 19th to January 5th.
I wanted to ask, it doesn't say December 19th here. It says
right, because that's the Monday, but if you get out
December 19th is the Thursday.
The calendar says December 20th, we have school.
I apologize. Yeah, that is correct. So it'll be the 21st through the 5th. Yeah. So it's probably the longest period of time that you have for a holiday break because of where the holiday falls. And just so that folks are aware that what we do is when the tech center announces its calendar, we align with that because we have students that are going to school in 2 places. So I wanted the board to be aware of that. You'll be voting on that this evening, and for the community to be aware that we will be posting the 19-20 calendar this week.
So within the consent agenda, I just want to acknowledge Kip Dixon's resignation, and I just want to thank him for the fabulous job that he has done. I don't know him personally, but I know that his reputation has been really stellar over at Prosper Valley for the last 3 years, and the kids have just really adored him. So I just want to say thank you to him and the best of luck in his future endeavors. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda to be approved?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Why don't you take it away, Policy Committee?
Well, let's go down to policy.
Okay. It's funny, I thought we had already adopted the transportation, but I guess not because it's here. So the first item on the agenda then is to
Adopt.
the transportation, and then after that we have first readings of student freedom of expression in school-sponsored media, proficiency-based graduation requirements, not to be confused with proficiency-based grading that we're still working on.
So I'll make the motion first to adopt the transportation policy.
Do you have a second?
Discussion on it.
Do you have a second? Okay. Is there any discussion on the transportation policy?
For those of you that don't remember, this was in front of us a few times.
Yeah.
There was a few changes or whatever. We think we have it down now. And
Any questions, concerns, thoughts? All those in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
I'll make a motion for I believe this is the first reading of the student freedom of expression in school-sponsored media.
Okay. You want to go?
So just a little background on this. Basically, Raina, this just became, what, like 3 months ago? You gave it to us?
Yes, we found out
Right.
very recently
We found
that
out
it
3
was.
months ago. It's pretty much black and white from the state.
It's required.
It's required. All we had to do to this policy was add our name.
Okay.
There's really nothing else to it. Okay, it was written by the state, and that's what we need. We added our name in. That was it.
Do we need to have a second reading then?
Only
this-
if you want to make changes. If you're leaving it exactly as it is, you can adopt it in
Well,
next
since
meeting.
we're not allowed to, right? To
Well-
make changes to it because it's a state policy?
You know, it's all right. I mean, I made the motion that we have the first reading, that there might be somebody in the audience that watches the video and wants to come in, and that's what the first reading is really supposed to be. It's not just us, and then they can come in and ask their questions, and we can answer them.
Okay, we can go to a second reading.
You know?
Yep.
So,
Do we need to approve the first reading? I didn't think so. Okay. Second, proficiency-based graduate requirements.
so make a motion to, well, it's the first read, so you don't really need a motion, right,
Right.
Dana?
Correct.
Okay. So you have in front of you the first reading of the proficiency-based graduation requirement, which is another state mandated proficiency-based graduation. We did at one point have a proficiency-based graduation and grading policy together. What we have done is taken the two separately, since the state, one part is mandatory, the other part we're saying grading, and we're working through the grading part.
So right now, we have a graduation and grading policy. That's what
Right now, we
governs
have
the
a,
school
right now in front of us, we have a
Yeah,
a
this is graduation, but right now, what's governing the school is a graduation and grading policy.
You know,
Previous
we're,
model was,
The
yes.
previous model.
the previous
Okay.
model.
We made a few changes with Garen's help. They're small things, just making it, updating the document a little bit. Changing PE and health to wellness and things like that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about it or any changes that they'd like to see made? You're a quiet group tonight. Okay, we'll go on. Motion to look at this 18-year-old students.
So once again, this is the first reading. We're just in policy, we're trying to pick 1 or 2 items that are really easy so we can move them along. This is based on 18-year-old student. For those of you that don't know, there can be a student that enters into 12th grade and will be 18 years old, just the way the school year runs. And we really did, with Karen's help, we worked on, we actually thought that it was going to be an easy one, and it turned out to be that we went through a lot of different things on here. It still gives the parent the first right to accept that their child at 18 years old can be on their own without the parent knowing. So it's, you know, in the past, I think it was that a child that was 18 years old could come in and sign off on their own. With Karen's help, we went through it, and if you have a child that's 18 years old in this school, you will first be giving a letter asking if you give that permission for the child to be on their own. Correct, Karen?
Yeah, that's essentially the piece. So it deals with where there's a legal transfer of rights at age 18. So there's a legal transfer of right allowing students to have their power in decision making, but what is our relationship with the school, with parents, to continue those communications and to keep our relationship with parents. So that's what the policy does. The policy is striking that balance between allowing students some of that autonomy that comes with being age 18, but also keeping that partnership and carrying of responsibilities to the school.
Okay. Sherry, anything to consider with students that that might receive special services? I would think there might be students who are over 18 in that.
Yeah, in order to receive guardianship, that process has to be completed before the child turns 18. So that process would already be done.
Okay.
And so that would address. Otherwise, it's like any other student, the parent does have to, and in those processes, the child has their own attorney. It's a very legal process. It's not easily given and granted, and most often it's in different categories. It's not pervasive in all areas.
And just so you know, Sherry is on the committee, and so that was one of the questions, and we kind of forget which one of us are committee members and have our input. We kind of go to the guest that was in at that time, but Sherry did put in the information to us.
Okay.
She just showed us it's covered.
Okay.
Say 20 years ago, hypothetically, would this idea of an 18-year-old signing their own permission slips been around?
No.
I'm just thinking of all the forged party notes that may have not had been necessary.
Not that you would be involved in.
No, not just hypothetical.
20 years ago, I wasn't 18.
Neither was I.
I was 20 years ago.
All right.
Neither was I.
So all of those will go on to second readings then for our next meeting. So the ratification of the WCEA contract, we have to come out of this meeting and go into a WCSU meeting because it's a WCSU issue. So we're going to put that into the next session. So food service report.
And is Gretchen here? Before,
Yes,
Gretchen, before you speak, I feel the need to just share with the board and with the community what just a remarkable job you've done, Gretchen. I have seen you here all summer, doing everything from menu planning to cleaning to painting to the level of commitment that you have put forth in this role has been exceptional, and I really wanted to recognize those efforts.
Thank you. I did have like a slideshow, but it looks like we're not hooked up to do slides, but maybe I can send it around just because it captures a lot of what's going on in our schools for food service. But there's a pretty extensive report in your packet. It goes through many details, probably a little bit more than you want to know. It is an honor to be here. This is my passion, and I'm really honored to be our WCUD school food service director. And when Bob Coates, when you guys did the vote, right before you did the vote in June, and Bob Coates said, "Can you get food on the table?" The first day of school we did. So, and we're still doing it. The report basically goes through the first 75 days of operation. And I'm not going to say it was rainbows and unicorns. We had to do that. Just like in the innovation lab, we had to do some different stages of iteration to get to where we are today. And one of the big things that we had to do was come together as a team. We were working in silos, and there's 10 employees, and especially at the high school, the team here, we had to go through those stages of forming a group. And so, you know, we went through norming and forming and through into that storming stage where we can now produce our highest possible, our best possible production. And so we're there. And so December finally felt like, we're at a good cruising altitude. So I'm really proud of our team. I'm really proud of our employees. They've really come together to make our program is what it is today. I don't know if I want to go through every aspect of this report. I mean, some of the highlights are working with Richard and Sharon to get our new meal claiming system up and running was a huge deal. We were working with a lot of, like paper and pencil data collection, meal claiming, and, this system basically allows me on a daily basis to see what's going on at each school. And so it's web-based, and, I'm able to work with Richard and Sharon on budgeting, and as Richard reported to you, I think in several other meetings, we are where we need to be for budgeting and financials. So that is really important. One of the other big ones is we did a lot of renovations to the high school. I did a lot of painting. Scarlett and Jen, who are at the Woodstock Elementary School, also volunteered their time to paint, to freshen up the area. The green rug is finally gone. Thank you. We pulled it down over December break. It's been a big goal. I know Carrie in the past also worked on that with students to try to get that rug out of there, or put decorations over it. But we finally got it out of there, which makes the space feel much better. And we redesigned our line based on reduction in force of labor. We have new stainless steel countertops that meet standards and code. So that's been a big improvement. And because our high school is the biggest revenue source, we need to make sure that we're pulling in as many meals as we can and selling meals there. I'm just going to talk more from my slides, but one of the exciting things is we formed a food education committee. We've met twice, and we're really taking a look at what we can provide students for food learning opportunities. And what's been really exciting is the wellness classes. So Alyssa and Jason Tarleton and Jeff Thomas, how dedicated they are to working through providing those nutritional, like cooking opportunities in their classes. And so we're really looking at the kitchens and the different spaces. The science class, we did a waste audit last week. So they took all the trash that we produced in one day, spread it all out. They did a data collection to see what was in the wrong places. And the students are really engaged in making changes in the cafeteria at the high school right now. And that's really, it's really valuable in their learning. And composting and reducing plastic, and it's all stuff that I know, but it's really amazing to see them engaged in the problem solving process and identifying the problem and like, what can we do about this? But we still have to have this and this, and we still need to be able to take our meal to go. We need that plastic fork, but okay, well, let's figure this out. So so that's been really a positive. I've been able to meet with our school nutrition advisory committee, which is Jess Stout is on, Sam Siegel and Claire Drebeco, local pediatrician, Elizabeth Reeves and Patrick Crowell, and they've been super supportive in helping me identify gaps and just really a reassurance to have that committee. So I really appreciate them, and to do this alone, it doesn't work. So thank you guys. I try to get to each school once a week. So I usually start my day here at the high school, and then I travel out to the school, and I spend the time with the cook site leader. I do a lot of subbing, which is great because then it helps me see where we need to improve on things. And so like the other day I was subbing for the head chef here, and our production records are not right. We gotta, and I was the one that created the production records, but once you're in somebody else's shoes, you're like, yeah, this needs to be fixed. There's just, I could go on and on, but I encourage you, if you have any questions about the program, please come talk to me. I know that there's been some really good feedback, which is great, and there's other feedback that we can help improve the program. I know Mary Beth and the advisory committee have said, let's do a survey, and so putting that together to get some more wider community feedback will be in the future. We're looking at social media opportunity. So what does that look like? What would be the most efficient tool to use for us to increase our meal participation? You do have a breakdown of what our participation numbers are in the report, and it's a baseline right now because the program is so different than it was in years past. So I think this is a good place to start, and we can always improve. We are running at about 24% free and reduced across the district, and we're hoping to continually increase that. We've done a mid-year campaign to send out free and reduced forms at the elementary school level again to kind of just remind people. And again, if you see families, just keep reminding them, yeah, do you know you can fill out the form any time of the year? Just fill it out, And if anybody has any questions, just call me, email me. I will take the time to explain anything to anybody about the program and the ins and outs, because it is a complicated, school meals is a complicated system, and it's there's a lot of moving parts to it. But I think the good news is we are doing something great for the district as a whole, as a team, and feeding our children excellent food. So.
Thank you.
Moving on to recognition of our outgoing board members.
Before we start, Rita, do you have the special gifts for our...
Do you want to be
I bet you didn't know that you get a special gift from me.
Kicking the pants.
There it comes.
Can you keep them? Patty is going to speak about Justin.
So you want me to give it to you? Of course, I have to open them up though to see what's what.
So I'll start. Okay. So my person is Jessica Stout.
It's like a rose.
Justin. And she turns bright red whenever this happens. So Jess has been with us. Well, she's been with Melena and I for 6 years plus. Yeah. She started at Woodstock Elementary School as somebody we recruited to the board because we had nobody on the board for that third spot, and then we convinced her to run, which she did. She's always been incredibly passionate about the food service program and wellness within our school systems. It's been a really important endeavor of hers. And then when I stepped away from being chair at West, she became the chair, and I was very happy to mentor her in that position, and she did an amazing job. And I was really excited that she decided to stay on with us and join us as the full 18 board member, and very upset when she told me through an email that she was not going to be staying on with us, because I think she's been a really great addition to this board. She's very level-headed, she's very thoughtful with her questions, and how she kind of views our new school district. So I just want to wish you all the best. I know she needs to be a full-time mom right now, and I understand that. So congratulations. Hey. And we're going to wish you wow. Thanks.
Is it reading glasses?
I've aged so much. So my person is Matt. I first met Matt over 2 years ago when we were on the Act 46 study committee together. 51 meetings later, in 18 months, we hadn't met before, and I do remember coming home and talking to my husband about you. But I have enjoyed working with you so much, and then we've been on this board together in the finance committee, and I will genuinely miss you. Being an attorney myself, I love someone who pushes back, and I love somebody who plays devil's advocate and who really pushes me. Thank you for that. You will be greatly missed. Not just you really look at every side of an issue. I really appreciate that. You're passionate about things, but you are always able to step back and be professional, and we can disagree, but we can be friends at the end of the day, and I so appreciate that. And I'm genuinely disappointed. I'm very disappointed in you. I really am. I can't believe you're leaving, and I will call you all the time anyway. And I have your cell phone. You know I text you. So anyway, you're not hearing the last of me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
I get to talk about Justin because Bob ditched this meeting and he left this with me. And I apologize because I wrote this all out because I wanted to make sure that I didn't screw it up because he's such a special person. And I'm really freaked out that he's sitting right next to me when I have to say this. Yeah, don't you? I have had the distinct pleasure and privilege to work with Justin on both the board of the Prosper Valley School and the WCUD Unified Board. In that time, I have learned so much by working with him, and the whole district has benefited greatly from the person he is and the tireless hard work he has done on behalf of our kids, our teachers, and our communities. I would like to acknowledge that first and foremost, Justin is the father of two amazing, unique young women who will undoubtedly go on to great things in the world with Justin and Nicola as role models, and I am glad he will have more time with them. I would also like to recognize that Justin exemplifies grace and, more importantly, graciousness under pressure. Never was that more apparent to me than when we were at a meeting in the town of Pomfret discussing the findings and recommendations of the Act 46 committee, of which Justin was a chair. He had poured his heart and soul and sacrificed so much to bring forward the best plan possible for our district, and we were met that night with, what shall I say, because I know Justin would never say, pretty obnoxious naysayers who are not even from the town of Pomfret. Well, I got my hand slapped by the moderator for a particularly frustrated response to a question. Justin was even, patient, and determined to deliver the information these people had to hear, even though it was not easy to deliver or well received. He could describe the value of the bigger picture, even when it was not the road that was personally easy. Justin has a tenacious and infectious optimism that allows him to lead people through difficult times and decisions with the goals of the greater good and a successful outcome. Justin helped to form the Prosper Valley School, bringing together the towns of Bridgewater and Pomfret at a time when both these towns had to face harsh realities and make hard decisions. A great thing was created in the process for our kids, our staff, and our communities, and I hope he will always know how grateful people were for that amazing accomplishment and how it positively affected the lives of the kids lucky enough to be there. Personally, I deeply miss the time we spent as a board around that little table in the library of TPVS.
With the short chairs.
With the short chairs, yeah. Helping that school to thrive and the many laughs we had along the way. Justin is the consummate collaborative, always willing to listen, always willing to support, always with the intelligent question, always there when you need him. I remember sitting on the stage in the Pomfret Town Hall last year trying to convince our voters to accept the turnover of our property to the unified district. Something I'm sure the district wishes they could turn the clock back on now. But at the time, it seemed like a good idea. But I looked out into the crowd that day, and there were Justin and Seth Shaw there after their own town meeting had ended, coming in to support Bob, Jody, Seth, and I. It was a tremendous comfort and solidified our confidence in our role. Being there was so in character with who Justin is. It was always Oliver School. So in closing, thank you, Justin, for all that you've done and for all that you have accomplished as a school board member. You will be deeply missed.
Do I have a second? Second. Yep. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Do I have a motion to go into, should we go into executive session first?
Well, you gotta open up the meeting.
Okay, to open up the meeting for the WCSU board meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Ray. Do I have a second?
I can do that.
Jennifer, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved for what?
Negotiations.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You guys.